In this video, we're going to take a look at a pink ink by Noodlers in their Baystate series, Cape Cod Cranberry. Now, as always, there's timestamps down below so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. Also, down in the description is a link to the pink ink playlist, so if you wanted to see more, you can find that there. I'm an ink guy. Let's get into the first writing sample done on 90 GSM Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. We have no feather, no spread, no shading in the stub. We do see some spots of shading showing up in the extra fine and in the medium. This looks very nice on the page. Now the extra fine and medium are about the same tone, both a bit lighter than the stub. The extra fine took 14 seconds to dry while the medium took 18. The scrubby for both gave no color variation, but we definitely got it in the writing. And the smear test, I do not think you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. To have a range of experience with this ink, all of the writing samples are done with a Jinhao 159 with a 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a medium, and a Jinhao X750 with an extra fine. Then, a fountain pen Revolution Muffed was inked up, used for a day, and used to take the notes for this video. The next writing sample is done on 52 GSM Tomoe River. No bleeding, but we have a lot of ghosting. Heavy ghosting, really. No feather, no spread, no shading in the stub, but we get a couple of darker spots showing themselves in the extra fine. We even get a little bit of darker spots showing themselves in the medium. Now the medium's a little darker than the extra fine, and the stub's a little darker than the medium. The extra fine took 20 seconds to dry, medium took 26. Scrubby for both show no color variation, but we definitely get a peppering of color throughout. And the smear test you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. I agree with Vita. I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink is put down and then it's put in the water for 10 to 15 seconds. And the most noticeable thing to me here is that this is a true pink, not a mixed to get it. Now it's a very even covering as it's moving up most of the way, and then we start getting some of the streaks moving higher. The one on the right is allowed to dry for 10 minutes, and to be honest, other than the fact that the ink doesn't move as far, you probably couldn't tell the difference between the two of these if they weren't marked, but I am expecting a lot of resistance here. The next writing sample is done on 80 GSM Rhodia dot pad. No bleeding, but we do get a lot of spots where it's heavy into the page, causing a lot of ghosting up on the stub. Not so much for the extra fine and the medium. It is showing it's getting deeper into the page, causing that ghosting. We have no feather, no spread, no shading for the stub. A few dark spots show themselves with the extra fine and with the medium, so it does shade with both of them. The extra fine and medium are about the same tone, and both of them quite a bit lighter than the stub. The extra fine took 16 seconds to dry, and a medium took 20. Scrubby for both give no color variation, but we do get those peppering of color in the writing. And the smear test, you probably could not recover it if you smeared while you were writing. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink could be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. This smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, this is a fairly good ink to use if you need to go back and highlight. Now, I'm going to acknowledge that the lowercase h is getting a little bit of feathering that's occurring with it, but everything is completely readable there without any kind of a problem. Water is only pushing some of the top layers of ink around. Really, most all of it is left there. Pen flush is starting to break it down. You do see it starting to become a much lighter pink. Now, it really only took pen flush to get this out of that fountain pen Revolution muffed. The water wasn't getting it completely, and the pen flush didn't have to work for very long to get it. The 1/3 bleach solution that I did not have to use is completely removing it from the paper, but discoloring the paper a lot in the process. The next writing sample is done on yellow Rhodia paper. I'm looking at this not to see performance change, more to see a tone change that occurred. And really what it made me think about was this is a much darker, richer pink, which had me wondering about it being used in place of red in a workplace. Now, I believe in the medium it's dark enough to use as a red, but the extra fine, they might be onto you with it being a pink. I'm very surprised, really, by how much there is a tone change. You can see how much darker it got in the medium for being on the yellow. For the inks tested, the average viscosity was 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Noodler's Cape Cod Cranberry has a viscosity of 2.72, making it normal. The next writing sample is done on G. Lalo paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. We have no feather, no spread, no shading in any of the writing. We only have some tone variation. The medium is a tad bit darker than the extra fine, and the stub's quite a bit darker than the medium. The extra fine took 10 seconds to dry, while medium took 12. Scrubby for both gave no color variation, and there was none in the writing, and the smear test, I do not think you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average dry time was 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Noodler's Cape Cod Cranberry has an average dry time of 19 seconds, so it's normal. The last writing sample is done on Strathmore calligraphy paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. We have no feather, no spread, no shading for the stub, no shading for the medium, but the extra fine definitely has a few darker spots. Only a few, not a ton. The extra fine's lighter than the medium, and the medium's a lot lighter than the stub. Extra fine took 11 seconds to dry, while the medium took 13. Scrubby for both give us no color variation, and we only get that light peppering in the extra fine. Smear test says you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. Instead of finding inks that look like Noodler's Cape Cod Cranberry, I'd prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I went with a nice standard blue, Namiki blue, one of my favorite blue inks to use. Now, if you'd prefer a different complement color, then down in the description are links to those playlists. So what do I think of Noodler's Baystate series Cape Cod Cranberry? This is a good pink. It's not too bright, so it won't hurt your eyes while you're reading it. This is good for a lab environment where you might spill things on your notes. It has a decent resistance to it. It wasn't as resistant as I was expecting. It may even be a good or great alternative to red ink for those grading papers. So what nib and pen are going to give the best writing experience with this ink? I was really thinking about the alternative for grading, where it's a little bit different than a red, so I would probably go with a wet fine or a wet medium pen. I hope you got something out of this video, and in the next video is Sailor Kobe number 39.